Homelessness 2.0, day 77. So yesterday I watched Don't Look Up. Good movie. I like it. Oh, maybe I should just... I really want to heat up this bowl, so I'll go ahead and just clean this up. It's now my favorite sci-fi film, at least in the sense of probably going to watch it a couple more times in the coming days and weeks. I'd say it's pretty accurate, which is probably why so many people who've talked about it say it's depressing, because of how so many people in the movie respond. But I mean, it's like, the film, I'm pretty sure it's probably intended for like global warming, but it's just anything. It's anything that, says, hey, the world's fucked. We should do something about this. We should know about this thing. And then, everybody else is all like, yeah, it's a hoax, or who gives a shit, or, the celebrity relationship's more important, or, just all this banal shit that doesn't really matter in the end. And the entire time I watched that film, I was rooting for the comet. In fact, it reminded me of Deep Impact, which I literally just finished watching. Spoiler alert, Deep Impact, the world doesn't get blown up. Just the Atlantic for the most part, and everything around the Atlantic gets fucked up because of it. And spoiler alert for Don't Look Up. If you want to skip ahead, or if you just want to not, but nobody's watching it, doesn't matter. When everybody loses, I got the solution. I got the result that I wanted. See, when I watched Deep Impact, I was taking sort of mental notes throughout the whole thing. And what I find interesting about it is the difference in how both of the movies are portrayed. In Deep Impact, you barely see any kind of real reaction to the events of a planet-killing, catastrophic event. Mostly you just see, the main characters and a few side characters, and that's about it. Which, that's pretty typical of a film. You get... There's only so many people that you can cover, that you can, relate to, that you can care about. Which is why they do what they do at film. And plays and TV shows and the like, you're there, they're there as a surrogate to you. They're there to showcase humanity in some capacity or another. But the real difference between the two is the overall societal reaction. You see, in Deep Impact, it's all about heroism. The president is a stand-up person that, is there for you, they're there to be a beacon of truth. The news, same thing. It's like, why did, in very much the same kind of fashion as the way that They both kind of start out the same way. You have astronomers. In Deep Impact, you have Elijah Wood's character who's just, he's in an astronomy club in high school, which, like, why the hell aren't those regular things? Probably because they always get defunded. And he discovers this comet. And that info, they get photos and they send it off to astronomer who can verify this stuff. And he finds out, hey, it's on a collision course with Earth. Same kind of thing with Don't Look Up. Slightly different because you have a PhD student who's actually using the real super telescope in the observatory instead of, a backyard telescope, which admittedly, those backyard telescopes that Elijah Woods was using in his class and that very, very nice telescopes. Like, I ain't knocking them. But when you have, the opportunity to use a legit ass, telescope from an actual observatory in a place that is designed, like specifically located, designed, and everything to have the least amount of light pollution so that you can take clear, super clear measurements, usually high up in altitude, often like in mountainous areas and the like, because those things all help reduce the amount of literal atmosphere between you and the stars. Because the atmosphere will actually basically makes it more fuzzy. So you want clarity. Both movies, they find out, hey, collision course, Earth. But then things change. They diverge. In Deep Impact, it says, what if society is like largely just good people? What would happen? What would happen if the president, the news, the protagonists, everybody are, for the most part, good people? Oh, sure, there's a scandal and all that stuff that's going on in Deep Impact and everything, but the scandal is a cover story for the actual, real news. And then, of course, the Russians in America, they're working together to make a giant space shuttle so they can go stop this thing. Because they're good people. The story of Deep Impact is what happens when the world is at large good people and they try to stop something bad happening to the rest of us. Don't Look Up is, what if something bad's about to happen to us, and for the most part everybody's stupid and fucking evil and horrible, including our leaders. And I gotta say, the casting of Meryl Streep as the President of the United States is the best. Best fucking fuck you in a movie in a long time. And if you don't know, the reason why that's such a great fucking casting is because Donald Dumbfuck-ass Trump shit on her because apparently he, didn't make it to the Emmys or some bullshit, or she said something stupid. And the motherfucker tweeted out at her, calling her what is it? Overrated. I mean, Meryl Streep is one of the best actors of our time. She's phenomenal at what she does. Every role she's in, she takes it and makes it her own. And that's exactly what an actor should do. You don't just get on screen and just kind of just say the words. You try to humanize it in some way or another. And that's what, and I'll be honest, like, as caricature he is in this movie, Jonah Hill is so good at being an asshole. He is just the fucking worst. He's so terrible. And I mean, like, so much of it is just political, is just commentary, it's social commentary on everything that's been happening with COVID and global warming and everything. It's like, we should be believing the scientists, not politicians, and especially not politicians who got a fucking, bone to pick with goddamn everybody because they just don't kiss his ass. Now, of course, Trump's not president anymore, but he's not gone, and he's still trying to like, it's been over a year, and he still says that the election was stolen. And there are people out there propagating this bullshit, saying that X amount of votes were or fake votes and all sorts of shit. And the thing is like, that has been the MO from before he was ever in office. That not only if he loses, it's rigged against him. If he wins, it's fine. And I would say that Meryl Streep did her research on this just garbage human that used to be our president. Because I hated every moment she was on screen. Except for the last moment she was on screen. That's the kettle. Cooking some water there. I'm just going to kind of let it do its thing. It's really fast. But it's probably killing the audio, so it's whatever. But yeah, so Don't Look Up is a great film. Not only because of, how accurate the science feels, but also how accurate the science, if you will, about how society behaves is real. It gives me the satisfaction that all these fucking people obliterated. And it shows you definitely how the rich will do everything they possibly can for themselves and to enrich themselves. And even if it doesn't work out in that regard, that they still have opportunities that we don't have. The 90s were interesting because that was a time of economic growth in America, and it influenced everything. It really did. And even Hollywood, Hollywood made a lot. I mean, there's a lot of movies, and I'm sure there were some here or there, but nobody really made any overly depressing films that I can think of. And especially with regards to, sort of the catastrophic nature of movies. It was Armageddon, was even worse. It was so bad. Armageddon was terrible, but I loved the shit out of it when I was younger. I don't know how many times I watched that film. It's the dumbest fucking thing. Why would you... Being an astronaut is hard. Yet somehow they said, hey, we're going to take some oil riggers and make them astronauts instead of the other way around. What the fuck?
You know, I'm pretty sure you can teach astronauts how to be oil drillers and drill, and not oil drillers on how to be astronauts. But whatever. And then, of course, the one nuke works and blows it up, and then it like skims past the planet. And everything's all fine except for Bruce Willis's sacrifice at the end. It's funny too because like Deep Impact, you know, like there's this myth that goes around where you're only allowed one fuck in a movie for it to be PG-13. That's not technically true. It's just that is sort of like a, if you will, it's kind of like a guideline, I guess. Because the MPAA isn't actually like any real, like, they're not like a government body. They're basically just some average people. They're not even really a part of the film industry. So, and there's no real actual, like, that's what I was thinking of. There's no standards. There's no actual standards with regards to what makes something R versus PG. I mean, Beetlejuice is rated PG. Beetlejuice. Now, granted, that was in the late 80s, and PG-13 pretty much didn't exist until the late 80s. But the sheer fact that, you know, it would still be rated PG by anybody is weird. I mean, like, literally one point, he's like, nice fucking model. PG movies don't have the F-bomb in them. And if you'll note, there's a lot of animated films that come out now that are rated PG and not G. There's still a lot of movies that are G, but like a bunch of family movies that are animated coming out now. I mean, largely they're all CG animated with 3D and all that stuff, but they're all pretty much PG. They're not G anymore for the most part. And there's really no, like I said, there's no standard. There's no government standard that's, you know, making this. Because the thing is that it doesn't need to be governed by the actual government, because the way that movies work is that they do not have to follow the guidelines of the FCC until they're literally broadcast. So, for instance, when Saving Private Ryan was aired on television, uncut, and the only way it was cut in any sense was so it was, you know, for commercial breaks and the like. But everything was in that film. Everything that was in that film was still in the film. All the language, all the death, the dismemberment, everything. The scene with I think it was the American and the German, where, you know, the slow knife stab into the chest. That was there. All of it. I don't remember who aired it, but I'm sure they had to go through fucking loophole after loophole in order to do it. I think I already made this hot, but I'm just adding some more. Who cares? I'm not even actually going to drink any of that hot butter. It's just there to kind of like be the effectively a humidifier, which I have, but it's in storage, so. But yeah, so why am I talking about all this? Why does it matter? Well, it's a post that I just saw. It was talking about how, like, everything's fucked. We're not really doing anything about it. And they're all like, yeah, we're pretty much just driving with the check engine light on. Yeah, that's how it feels. It's like, there really there seems to be no point at this point. I mean, maybe it is the end of the world as we know it. I don't know. It probably explains my behavior, you know. You know, when I had hope in 2020, I really did. I had actual hope in 2020. But when George Floyd was killed, and no, he didn't die from a fentanyl overdose, you racist pieces of shit. Yeah, his fentanyl overdose was exacerbated by 9 minutes of having a knee on your neck. What the fuck on? In fact, there are people out there spouting that shit. It's like, how inhuman are you? There are people in this world saying that shit. Doesn't matter his history. It doesn't matter anything. What matters is what happened. And the sheer fact that there was 9 minutes of video footage with him on the ground with fuckfaces, I'm not even gonna say his fucking name because he's a piece of shit. You know what? I'll say his name. Mr. Chauvinist Pig. Because how apropos is that? His knee on his neck. That's when I lost hope. It really was. See, when I got terminated wasn't really, it didn't happen until literally my birthday. When I got laid off, I actually like started working out, trying to like do better. You know, I had this like spreadsheet that I had set up of various tasks that I could do. Basic shit that like I was cataloging because they can often be difficult for me. I was cataloging how many times I took, when I took a shower, when I did the dishes, when I did the mail. But then I was also doing some exercise stuff. I would do things like, there was this kettlebell that nobody was using in the house. So I would use that and I would do, various, kettlebell-based exercises and stuff with it. Nothing super strenuous, but I did get ahead of myself because my shoulder really can't handle too much because ever since I was in jail and I tore whatever the fuck I tore. Probably my rotator cuff. No, that hasn't been fixed, even though it's been 4.5 years now. Because welcome to America. I was doing all these things, and I was also preparing to go to Jamaica, and then that didn't happen because I tried to be responsible. And then I continued to postpone it because I wanted to be responsible. And then the place that, by the way, it was Nirvana on the beach. The people who run it are in Florida, and Florida don't give two shits about COVID. They didn't from day one. And so I will not be going to that place if I ever get a chance to go to Jamaica again. I won't be going through them. Because one, they already got my money. And I didn't get a trip. So fuck them. They can rot for all I give a shit. But I was effectively still deluded, I guess, by sort of, if you will, the deep impact of the world, where despite some issues here and there with the shitty president and so on, that most people, and that generally speaking, most people are good. But with the initial response to COVID, especially in the higher ups, and then how it affected people and how slowly any kind of, public assistance was being rolled out. And sure, it did happen. And that's why I'm able to stand in this building right now, because I saved a good chunk of my money. The fact that there are still so many people out there who are getting fucked. And then there are people out there who are just acting like fucking children and ruining it for everybody. George Floyd's death was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's going to take a long time, if ever, for me to see the light again in humanity. Because time and time and time and time again, we've been proving that, for the most part, people are shit. And then, to help sort of reinforce that, you have people out there who are talking about like the death rate of COVID and how it's not all that bad. Like, let me ask you something. What else do you think happens when you get COVID? Anything? Do you just cough a little bit and then live, or cough a little bit and then die? Because every time somebody dies, people are talking about how there's all these openings in the job market, and yet somehow more people are quitting. I'm like, what happens if COVID finally decides to settle down and just chill with us and be, a week-long illness for everybody? Like, if on average you get COVID and you're sick for a week, how is that gonna affect your everyday life? I've already talked about it, in a sense, in another video. But what if that's our reality going forward? Because we couldn't be fucking adults about this 2 years ago and be like, look, we don't know how bad this could get. We don't know how devastating this could be for all aspects of our life. Because we had selfish children as leaders. And not just in our country, in a lot of them. Sure, some other countries did it right. And there's a lot of people bitching about it. And I would say rightfully so, because there are other countries that fucked up so bad that the efforts of the countries who did it right, hey, it's kind of like everything else. The people who tried to do it right got fucked over by all the other people who did